Chapter 7. Resigning from the Rat Race. Empowered with stories for making meaning and tools for settling emotions, we are ready to experiment with ways of living differently from the mold of industrial consumer society. In this chapter, you will find reflections and experiences that challenge my culture's ideas of achievement and busyness. Less doing, more being. Here are the sections of this chapter. Slowing down and paying attention, a countercultural invitation to work at the speed of relationship. Not going to pieces. Everybody wants a piece of me. I'm learning to say no. What really matters? An invitation to get clear on your values and tell others about them. Perspective. Stop striving. Josie talks about stepping away from a job that was slowly destroying her. Step off the ladder. A plea for earthiness. Climbing the precarious ladder of worth is modernity's way of keeping us anxious and unsatisfied. Preserve lessons. Stewarding a plot of land is teaching me to slow down and tend relationships, human and non-human. And perspective. Tom's reflections. Tom values being present to the gifts of life more than doing. Slowing down and paying attention begins with a quote from Bio Kamalafi. The times are urgent. Let us slow down. Being in the mapless territory that is the decline and collapse we face might seem a cause for urgency. That's panic talking, and panic does not help us find our way. Since we don't know where we're going faster won't help us get there. Oh, I like that. Since we don't know where we're going faster won't help us get there. Best then to take a deep breath and slow down. We can only understand what we take the time to learn, know, and be in relationship with. To be in relationship beyond the human world is to be always slipping into a state of wonder and reverence. I'll say that again. To be in relationship beyond the human world is to be always slipping into a state of wonder and reverence. Cultivating reverence for the human and non-human world slows us down. The good gardener is always poking about, seeing how her leafy friends are faring on this day. Each ingredient has a story of the journey that it took to our kitchen, and each ingredient is owed a word of thanks. We would be wise to work at the speed of relationship. Wow, I love that paragraph. Staying busy is a great way to avoid seeing what is in front of our eyes. It takes time to truly see. I am a most annoying hiking companion. I have to greet the monkey flower blooms I haven't seen since the year before, examine animal tracks, watch the clouds, and see if any pearly everlasting seeds have scattered. What's the point of visiting my friends out there on the trail if I don't take time to greet them? The human world, too, takes time to understand. Where are the levers of power in my city? Where does the recycling go after it's sorted? How do children learn our values? What are our values, truly? The ones we speak, or the ones we have been living unknowingly? Answering those questions cannot be done at speed. I have learned in my volunteer and activism work that relationships take time. And relationships are what make non-paid groups work. So if I want to have an impact, I will slow down. I will work at the speed of relationship, and not faster. I am known as a gardener among my friends and consulted for advice. This reveals the sorry state of gardening in the circles I travel, but I do what I can to help. A colleague of my husband consulted me about her dying houseplants, and I honestly can't recall what I told her. I saw her a few months later, and she said, "Your advice worked." I had to ask, "Oh, what advice?" "Pay attention. You told me to pay attention." Not going to pieces. Quote from Dar Jamel. Don't run around in panic. Don't light your hair on fire. Don't go out and see what other 10 more things you can do, or how many articles you can forward. Just stop and get really, really quiet and touch down into the earth and really listen and see what comes up into your heart. Everybody wants a piece of me. In 2018, I made the mistake of donating monthly to a political campaign fund. They promised that they would divide my donation among senatorial candidates of my political party for each of the 50 states. They stopped charging me after a couple of months when my credit card number changed. But from then on, I have received email requests for donations from dozens of candidates covering most of those 50 states. I do my best to unsubscribe, but the deluge of emails keeps coming. In the same way, invitations from activists and volunteer groups in my local area often leave me feeling pulled in 50 different directions. In my community, I meet the same activists helping each other on about a dozen causes and organizations. They look seriously overextended. I love these people. They have such big hearts. I want to spend time with them. And I am learning to admit that there is no more of me to give. I want to show up fully when I've promised or else not promise. To do that, I have learned I need free capacity. That way, I will likely be available when a group I am already supporting asks for a short-term extra. I want to be very clear about what is mine to do and give myself permission not to do what is not mine to do and not to feel guilty about it. This is hard when people are hurting and the list of emergencies keeps growing. It's a work in progress, but I am determined not to go to pieces. How to say no? Well, here are some strategies I'm trying. And there's a bunch of bullet points. Affirm the value of the request. Somebody wants to relieve suffering or to share some fun and asks me for help. I can tell them their cause is worthy. I can say, let me think about that, even if I want to say yes right away. If I want to show care for the person, I can ask them a few questions about their project and listen with empathy and curiosity. I can also ask about them as a person, not just a project. If it feels like I'm the only one who can help, I try to remember that that is almost certainly not true. I can remember the last time I signed up for something I regretted. Admit my limits. I am sorry, I don't have the capacity for that. I set some limits around phones. I don't give money to phone solicitations, so I won't waste your time. Oh, that's good. I don't give money to phone solicitations, so I won't waste your time. Then I hang up. I don't answer calls when I'm in the middle of something, and I don't spend time talking with those who don't show me respect or courtesy. I set some limits around email and texts. I take time to unsubscribe from lists I don't want. I turn off email and text alerts. What needs doing and what you can do and should do are two entirely different things. As hard as it is, don't think that you are responsible, in other words, that you must respond to all pleas for help. Please, don't go to pieces. What really matters? Quote from John Norman. Life is too short and too precious to waste it living out someone else's values. We must find our own. What really matters? How do we want to do and be in the world? The human response in practice to these profound questions, in most times and places, is what I've always done and been, what my family, friends, neighbors, and trend leaders tell me. We run on autopilot. This approach is particularly dangerous when social media manipulates our sense of what is unacceptable and what is normal and right or left. What you value is what takes your attention. Sobering thought. What you value is what takes your attention. Now that you know, you can seek strategies to spend your time in ways that honor your aspirational values, rather than those values your culture wrapped around you like chains. The end of business as usual is a great time to examine our values. Once we step away from the denial of the troubles we face, we're in a different landscape. The values others take for granted may look irrelevant or even suicidal. We may practice the values of our sick system unreflectively, even if we would deny their hold on us. Take note of default values you habitually act on or act out that don't serve you. Challenge yourself to challenge them. You can do this simply by observing how you spend your time. Hard times allow us to discover what we truly value. It takes time and reflection to build a sense of what does matter and how our values lead us to do and to be in the world. Be patient and recognize that we are all under construction. Expect your values to continue to shift as you envision ways of being other than industrial consumer society. Give yourself grace when you see the gap between your values and your practice. If you're like me, you are entangled in a system whose life-denying values you don't know how to escape. Living in two worlds is disorienting, yet I don't know how to do otherwise. I urge you to practice naming the values that you want to practice. Find an elevator speech for them. It is easier to do a thing when the thing has a name. In the Deep Adaptation Forum, our purpose statement is, quote, enabling and embodying loving responses to our predicament, unquote. People light up when they hear that for the first time or the 13th. The permaculture community has the values earth care, people care, fair share. If your values don't sound alluring, at least to you, you either haven't named them yet or you haven't quite found them yet. From the values and purpose you claim and your particular history, location, and passions, you will make a life despite hard times. You will explore ways to be and things to do that serve life in your unique situation. If you don't know what that looks like, spend some time exploring. It might turn out very different from what you can initially imagine. Or it may be that what you were already doing valued anew for different reasons. Either way, finding new or renewed values may take time and experimentation, and the support of others. Don't assume that you must be a shining example of the purpose you name and seek to practice. Your work in progress, that a critical person might label hypocrisy, is normal. You are human, not perfect. Brag on your values, even if you feel sheepish about how you embody them. In hard times, people desperately need values and purpose. They make life worth living. Say it again. In hard times, people desperately need values and purpose. They make life worth living. Somebody may take your values and find a path of action different from yours. That's to be expected. A good set of values isn't a map. It's a way of traveling. Step off the ladder. A plea for earthiness. For many people, living life means fighting for a place on a precarious ladder instead of having 2 feet firmly on the ground. Are you familiar with this ladder? It is the ladder of worth. If you're up high on that ladder, you feel good. You are really somebody, looking down on all those other people. You are better than, but that just feels like being good enough. You have arrived, but you're not secure. One day you may slip and bump, bump, bump down the rungs you go. That slip makes you less than. When you land down in the sub-basement rungs of the ladder, you feel worthless. You feel shame. What sends you up and down that ladder of worth? We each have our personal list. I ascend the ladder because I'm so smart. I have a PhD. But do one dumb thing and bump, 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 down I go. Maybe your ladder is about having enough money or an important job. Perhaps it's about getting someone's good opinion. Ladders work in the same way, whatever their rungs are labeled. You can find so many reasons to fight your way up the ladder, and so many ways to bruise your behind slipping down that same ladder. You can climb a ladder because you're so in touch with the sacred, so tuned in, so filled with the Spirit. You are ascended. Then you go through a spiritual dry patch or stick your foot in your mouth and down you go. Bump, bump, bump. Here's a secret. You can step off the ladder. You can stop comparing yourself to anybody else and settle into the place you truly belong. Both feet firmly planted on our earth home, resting squarely in the great web of being. You can stop trying to earn your place and stop judging yourself and everybody else. You can take your feet off those rickety, slippery rungs and plant them on terra firma. With both feet on solid ground, you can relax. You have nowhere to fall and nowhere to climb. You are secure and you belong. You are shoulder to shoulder with everybody else, not above or below. There's no pinnacle to which you must ascend to receive your value, no shortage of worth to fight over. You are part of a whole that is all sacred, all worthy. In this view of the world, we never were less than, and we never needed to be better than. We belong. We are accepted, valued, and loved as one small and precious part of a sacred whole. Secure in that reality, we are grounded and steady when the storm comes. Picture two people on the ladder trying to hug or to make eye contact. It doesn't work. A ladder is a lonely place to be. We can stand shoulder to shoulder when we step off the ladder onto solid ground. We can see each other eye to eye. We can hug. What about all those other people still on the ladder, judging me? Yes, they'll still be judging us. That's their business, not ours. We need to find people with both feet on the ground. These people will support, guide, and cheer us instead of judging us. So come and discover this wide open place where you can relax. Here you can be honest about yourself and not shamed. You can learn and make mistakes and not be a mistake. Quit climbing an infernal ladder to some imaginary destination or sliding down into a pit. You can spend your energy loving, serving, and enjoying, with both feet on solid ground, our precious earth home, where you always belong. Perspective. Stop striving. Josie lives in Long Beach, California. I met her at a writer's retreat at the Grand Canyon in 2022. She spent the rest of that summer traveling and camping with her husband. She had been a restoration ecologist and is now studying to become an art therapist. She worked in restoration ecology for years. It was her passion and calling, and it was hard work, both physically and emotionally. She values traditional ecological knowledge from indigenous knowledge holders. She's heartened by the movement she sees in professional organizations to begin to recognize this ancient wisdom. Josie explained to me the difference between an environmentalist and an ecologist. An environmentalist has to go for the win and wants to save as much as possible. Satisfaction comes from saves and transformations. Big promises must be made to get funding for workers. An ecologist wants to crawl into the weeds and observe an ecosystem to figure out how it works. With this understanding, she has a better grasp of how to support its thriving. Ecologists are deep listeners and deep lovers of the non-human world. The day-to-day work of ecology inspires wonder and awe and feeds the soul. Unfortunately, she couldn't tell project funders, "We took your money and we learned a lot." She spun a good yarn, but it wasn't quite enough. During the pandemic, she organized a team of college graduate biologists, paid near minimum wage, to do too much work with too few resources. Working with these underpaid young people, she witnessed them frantically striving to be good enough. Did I put the plant in just the right spot, or did I blow it? And frantically striving to achieve a promotion to something closer to a living wage. They had internalized the rat race and were their own harshest critics. She sees the same frantic striving all over our culture. Quote, "Let's fight for a bigger piece of a smaller pie," unquote. And she saw it in herself. She was striving to meet unreasonable demands with insufficient resources, striving for justice for her employees, and striving for systemic change in her organization. It didn't happen. And finally, she refused to pay the emotional and spiritual toll. So she stopped before frantic striving destroyed her physical health. She took a year off, writing, traveling, and doing art to heal her spirit. She is beginning again in a different field, hopefully with less striving. Preserve lessons. Every Wednesday morning, I meet a few friends at a small ecological preserve 4 blocks from my house. Supposedly, I'm working, stewarding this land. Really, I'm playing, learning to know and love this little oasis in a very urban landscape. I'm the only member of our little crew under 70. We call ourselves the Preserve Preservers. We only remove by hand the non-native plants that smother the natives, like black mustard, tumbleweed, and poison hemlock. I have no illusions about our accomplishments. As soon as we make headway on one species, another one rolls in and gets firmly established right under our feet. I wonder, too, how long this fragment of somewhat original landscape can persist in the face of climbing temperatures and frequent droughts. But I'm not responsible for the outcome. I relax and enjoy the process. I email the group weekly, sharing the location we'll meet and the tools we'll need. Chuck is our mentor. A retired kindergarten teacher with boundless enthusiasm, he sharpens the tools and can name most of the plants, birds, and bugs we come across. He patiently educates us on plant identification, complete with botanical names of all the parts. Repeatedly, those terms don't stick in our brains. More importantly, he coaches us on slowing down and loving the place. He sets a pace that invites renewal of body and soul. This pace also allows us to attend to the non-human world that surrounds us. Quote, "Look for the disconformity," Chuck likes to say. We tiptoe off trail, with permission, to patches of artichoke thistle and tree tobacco. Along the way, we discover rare dwarf succulents, roadrunners, snakes, artful spiders, perfectly round pencil-diameter holes of ground-dwelling bees, rare cactus wrens who sound like car engines trying to start, and hawks dancing in midair. Not all is sweetness and light. The heat wouldn't impress my inland friends, but it can be challenging for this coastal desk jockey. I'm also a chiggerbait. One week before I began taking precautions, I racked up 50 bites. Several of us are nursing joints that don't enjoy repeated bending and squatting. Workers charged with official maintenance of the preserve or its borders occasionally come through and mow sections, removing the natives along with the invasives. Sometimes they use herbicides, leaving bare soil ideal for a complete invasive takeover the following spring. For me, it's all about relationships. We are forming relationships with roadrunners and hawks and pygmy blue butterflies and kingbirds. We are also forming relationships with low-wage gardeners who might have little reason to love this place. Or maybe they feel the land calling too. Maybe the butterflies and the swallows flitting and diving speak to them. Whatever the reason, some of them have learned narrow leaf milkweed from tumbleweed, to spare the former and remove the latter from buffer zones adjacent to the preserve. Newcomers to our group sometimes exhibit dogged attempts at speed and efficiency. Chuck gently ignores this behavior. He stops every 10 feet along the trail to point out some insect or plant part or to philosophize about life. I pull the newcomer aside and explain we're learning from Chuck how to pace ourselves for the long haul so that we can know and love this place. That is more important than getting stuff done. After all, Chuck has been stewarding wild places most days for the last 20 years. I don't aspire to that record, but I have learned to slow down, see what is in front of me, know it better from season to season and from year to year, and to love this little preserve deeply. Perspective. Tom's reflections. Tom recently moved with his wife to the outskirts of the small college town of Ithaca, New York. For many years he lived, worked, and raised their children, now adults, in the more urban Brooklyn, New York. He wrote these reflections to organize his thoughts about what he is learning to value in the face of collapse. What do I know? Almost nothing for sure, plus I have much to unknow, which is to unlearn. Our pollution, quote-unquote, includes much more than the carbon and methane emissions, including the terrible no-good bad stuff that we direct within and amongst ourselves, supremacies, post-enlightenment, progress, empire. Us means beyond our species, the thriving life paradigm. What do I want? To wake with sunrise, open the door, smell and hear the nature. To sip coffee with a view, to be unencumbered, spacious, exuberant, and fully rooted in the cosmos. No multitasking, no rat race, few mandatory tasks and to-dos beyond the basic needs. No traffic, no car, no rush to get to a job, no rush to be on time. No wait from things or wanting things, just the very little I need, the opportunity to be in delicious gratitude for the ever-present here, now. To walk beneath trees near a stream or beside the ocean, a view of the horizon, a bike ride, a swim, leisurely shooting basketball, quiet walkable sidewalks to a library, a pizzeria, a grocery store, simple meals and simple cleaning, a daily ritual. Loitering in motion, warmth of the sun, cool evenings, warm days, no winter perhaps, thinking about others, caring, listening, doing, belonging. Loitering in community, less talking and deeper conversation. Time to be sad and to be happy. And I want the same for all. When you slow down and attend to relationships with humans and non-humans, what do you want? Summary and reflection. When you aren't sure where to go, going faster doesn't help. In this ongoing crisis, urgency may be the last thing we need. Slowing down can be healing and enlightening. I invite you to work and travel at the speed of relationship. What needs doing and what you can or should do are two entirely different things. Please don't go to pieces trying to respond to too many requests for help. How are you at setting boundaries? What you value is what takes your attention. In hard times, people desperately need values and purpose. They make life worth living. From the values and purpose you claim and your particular history, location, and passions, you will make a life. A good set of values isn't a map, it's a way of traveling. After pouring herself into ecological restoration work, Josie stopped striving in ways that were neither healthy nor getting the results she had hoped for. Now she's choosing a different path. The ladders of worth that our society invites us to climb, or condemns us for falling from, are not safe places to stand. Keep both feet on the ground, and earthly mutual relationships is much more secure and comfortable. From stewarding a little preserve with friends, I have learned to slow down and savor that unique part of the non-human world. This allows a deep connection with my fellow gardeners and with the non-human world. When you slow down and attend to relationships, what do you want? Tom made a list.